So hi and welcome to another video, and today I'm going to show you a weight reduction on the M800 to bring it down to 53 grams, as well as some other variations if you want to pick which kind of mod you want to do to this. Now, if you're not familiar, I'll take this mouse apart. I've already done a teardown. I'll put a link in the description for that so you can understand how you want to take this apart. And if you want to see the full video without being sped up in certain parts, there's a full stream on Twitch that you can go through. It's about 4 hours long and it'll show you exactly what I did if some bits are not quite clear. So if you're not already, subscribe and like this video so I know what content you like, and that will ensure you get the latest updates to give you the competitive edge over your gaming rivals. We'll definitely do some more review stuff, but for now, let's get on with the weight reduction. So not strictly around the weight reduction here, but we changed the scroll wheel from the stock to a G305. This fits in perfectly without any other modification. And it does actually make the encoder a little bit nicer. Not particularly a fan of this M800 encoder and this little trick here with the G305 scroll wheel. You can also get things off AliExpress. Makes it a lot easier. The other mod we're going to do is we're going to change the battery. We're going to switch out the 500 milliamp 3.7 volt battery for a 200 milliamp 3.7 volt battery. I'll put a link in the description for this battery if you want to get one yourself. It's going to need to be a 3-pin, and we're also going to have to change the JST connector because it doesn't fit. This one's slightly smaller on the battery that I've got. Now this battery weight gives us around 5 grams weight reduction straight off the bat, which is pretty good because the 500 milliamp is an absolute beast. We're going to need to reconnect all the wires, as you see here, me stripping them down. I'm going to have to resolder them. I'm going to have to re-sleeve them. This is an easy mod, but you need some soldering iron skills. It's not too advanced. You're going to need some good stripping skills as well as a few little tricks. You can use insulation tape instead of these sleeves, but I've been using these going forward, which are a bit easier and a little bit tidier as well. So now the JST connection plugs straight in. We'll just give it a quick test to make sure it lights up as expected, doesn't get hot or anything, which is perfect. Nice gimpy LED there we're going to take off in a bit. And I just use some 3M tape. So now we just use some M3 tape to stick it down here. Then we weigh it up. Comes in at already 61 grams with the rear panel on, 54 grams with it off. It's already a decent weight reduction. Now I'm just going to drop the LEDs off the back. I'm using my soldering iron again. You're going to need a little bit of skill here. These do come off relatively easily. Around 0.6 of a gram weight here, or 1 gram if you want to round it up. Not a bad little weight reduction. Then we've got the exoskeleton, as we're going to call it here. I'm going to trim this out. This is quite a bit of work. There's going to be a lot of trimming here, so grab a cup of tea or something to eat if you want to watch all of this, or fast forward using the timestamps, because this bit is a lot of chopping. this is what it looks like. We're going to be taking out a bit more as well, don't worry. Just showing you where we're up to at the minute. We're now down to 12 grams. I'm going to continue the chop, then we're going to get the nail file out. We're going to trim out some more, but you can do step by step. Again, it's going to depend how far you want to take this. I take as much as I can. There's probably one bar at the rear we can take out if you wanted, but it might add a bit of flex. I haven't done that to keep it a bit more rigid. One thing to be careful of is don't take out those little clips. There's 3 of them. One's a DPI clip, and the other 2 are for the main switches. You do not want to interfere with them. That will interrupt how the buttons work. So just be careful there. I took out as much as I can. I'll do a bit more in the middle, but just make sure you don't interfere with those clips. And there's a little post as well. It's now been a little bit more delicate with the nail file. You can see the post that I've left, or the strut that I've left across the back. Again, you could take that out if you wanted. I didn't. But I'm just going to tidy up so it's nice and smooth using the nail file, which is a little bit more finesse with it. You can tidy up things. You can also take out a little bit more plastic slithers and just trim it out nicely. So after all that work's done, we're down to about 11 grams. So we're nicely making some weight reductions here. This is what it weighs in total once we piece it all back together. We're going to continue to do some more work though on the exoskeleton. Also 53 grams main weight is with the side buttons and DPI button in as well. So now we're down to 58 grams. Getting a decent weight. Got a long way to go yet. With the rear panel off, 53 grams. So again, a little bit more work in that middle section. Just be careful, as I said, those little clips. I did find we could take a little bit more out though, as we just start to finesse this exoskeleton and just try to trim out all the bits that we can in it. Again, we've left that bar in place. That's the bar you could take out. Still some more to take out. As I said, there's a lot of work on this shell. This is where the main weight is going to be, and this is where the main work's going to be for you to keep it trimmed down. Just keep on hacking away at it. If you're not already, check out my Twitch stream, Bearded Bob. Follow me up on there if you want to see all this content live. I do it quite a lot. You get to see how it all works and have a chat. So I brushed out the toothbrush now, which basically knocks off any of the burrs, tidies up a little bit more, and now we're down to dead on 11 grams. Dead on 58 grams now, or 51 grams with the rear panel off. Now we're starting to work the base. First thing's coming off is the USB holder, which we don't particularly like, and we're going to trim out a lot of this. Labels coming off, I forgot to take it off on the teardown. Amateur. Now we're just going to keep working this again, quite a bit of work on this, and we're going to switch the skates out for some G Pro Wireless Hyperglides, and then we're also going to sand the base as well. So still quite a bit to come here, so stay tuned and let's see how we get on. Now I've trimmed out quite a lot on the rear of this, and I've also trimmed out some between the front supports. I don't go too far on the front because I don't like interfering with the presses or the scroll wheel press. So just be careful. I also try not to interfere too much underneath the skates. Some people do that and you can get away with it. I'm going to take out a lot more on this one. Normally I wouldn't drill under the skates just because I prefer to keep it full. So now we're just going to test the G Pro Hyperglides. You can see they don't fit quite into the channels, but we're going to work the base so they do. Just before we do that, we're going to give it a quick weigh here and see what it's coming in at. Now we're down to 55 grams, which is impressive anyway, and 49 grams without the rear panel. So now we're going to have to sand the base, and this took forever, and it is one messy job. So you probably wet sand it, which is what I probably should have done, but you have to keep the weight evenly on the base, which is quite difficult, so you don't sand it at weird angles, and you have to work it. I'm using around 200 grit, and then I use a 600 grit to fine smooth it. You could go higher, go up to like 1000 grit if you wanted to get really smooth, but you're not going to notice because it's smooth at 600 and the skates are going to be what you glide on anyway. Don't underestimate how long this takes and don't underestimate how messy it is. I've trimmed out quite a bit of this because it just goes on forever and you don't want to see me sanding for days and days. Give it a wash, give it a quick rub down to dry it off. You can see how it's all flattened out now. Now it's ready for some skates. And then we'll do a final trim. So what was surprising was the skates actually reduce a bit of weight as well by switching them out for Hyperglide. G Pro wireless, you could use G305, you could use even little dots. This is what the stream picked to use, so hence we're using G Pro wireless Hyperglides. It does feel quite nice on this. It's definitely worth changing the skates on this mouse. The stock ones suck, and even these additions here were good, but you might find you got to sand the base quite a lot to get the right glide or right skates on for yourself. So now I'm going to take out the whole rear of the old skate section. This is a nice little bit of weight saving, but you can only do this if you obviously change the skates. I was quite impressed at how well this base came out. I like the way you could trim around it. You can certainly do a little bit more in the middle part if you wanted, or sorry, the front middle bit. It's up to you. I personally wouldn't, but you never know. I also found this little diffuser that I didn't realize was on there. It doesn't even register on the scales, but I'm sure it weighs something. So now we just get to piece it all back together after all these mods. We're going to get to see what it's like. Drop a few screws in. The PCB, because it does need them. You're going to have to hold them down with a screw or two. All clip back together like a Razor Viper. You don't need any screws in the shell. And now the final weight is a nice 53 grams with the rear on still 47 without the rear, which is nearly the Starlight weight, which is impressive. This is also a bigger shape than the Starlight 12. So if you want to see a shape comparison for the M800 versus the other Vipers, I've done a video on that. It's good for you to see what those different sizes are. And thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll catch you again soon in the next video. See you later. Bye-bye.